Hello and welcome to our webinar on trustee certification. My name is Charlie Taylor. I'm one of the continuing education consultants at KDLA and I'll be kicking us off today. I'm joined by my colleague Alicia McGrath. Hello everybody! She'll be coming in with the second half of today's webinar. There are some downloads available in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. If you'd like to go ahead and get those, they're the current versions of the applications as well as the learning activity report, and we'll be taking a closer look at those later. You'll also see the PDF, which is the full-size version of the slides, if you want to come back and review those at a later time as well. Those handouts will also be available at the end of the webinar if you aren't able to get them right now. So we're going to go ahead and move into our presentation. We'll start with a little bit of introductory information. And just a quick reminder that this is being recorded, and you can come back and review it at a later date if you have anything you want to clarify or share with any of your colleagues and your fellow trustees, or if you're a library director, you want to share information with your trustees, you can do that as well. So we'll look at why you might want to be involved in the program and what its goals are. So when a community member is appointed or becomes a public library trustee, he or she has some general duties and responsibilities that they're going to assume. First is attend all library board meetings to the best of your ability. Of course, things may come up, but the goal is to attend all of them. Participate in discussions, support board decisions. You want to advocate for the library and the community, be an advocate, as well as advocate for your community as a member of the library board. Make sure you're securing adequate funds for your library, and then hire a qualified and competent library director, and then delegate the management responsibilities to that library director. How to do that is covered in certification training that we'll talk about later, but just the general idea is that the management responsibilities, the day-to-day management responsibilities, are left to the director. Additionally, you'll want to plan for the future with a written strategic plan, and of course, do your annual planning that's derived from that strategic plan. You'll be monitoring and evaluating the finances of the library, the director's job performance, how the library is progressing toward its goals that it created as part of that annual plan and the strategic plan. And then the performance of the board. So how well do you think you're doing your job as a board, as a whole? You want to work with the director to establish policies for the library and do your best, of course, to comply with any laws, federal, state, and local, pertaining to public libraries. The goals of the trustee certification program. So that was kind of what you agree to, what happens when you come onto the board. So we have this trustee certification program. What is that trying to do? What are we trying to help you do as a trustee with the certification program? So we want to help you to learn how to hire and supervise a qualified library director and to then evaluate their job performance. We want to teach you the basics of what you need to know for your board to function effectively. We want to teach you about library finances, how the library operates fiscally, and then how to advocate for the library's financial needs. We want to help you learn how to assess and adopt policies so that your library can operate effectively in the community. And then we want to teach you about strategic planning and figuring out your community's needs so that you can create a plan for the future. Okay, brief overview of all of that. So now we're going to look at how to actually get started in the program. So you've looked at kind of what it hopes to achieve, decided you wanted to be certified. How do you actually do it? So this is the nitty-gritty. First, trustee certification in Kentucky is a voluntary program. It's not mandated by law. So, but we hope that the program's purpose and goals will want to motivate you to become certified. So remember that it is a voluntary program. Also, when you're trying to decide whether to become certified, keep in mind that trustee certification helps your library with its ranking in regards to the Kentucky Public Library Association standards. Now, you'll learn more about these standards when you complete the certification training. We have a whole section that talks about the standards, what they are, and what they do for libraries. But basically, they're an assessment tool that's used when you're evaluating your library's effectiveness. It'll help the library to figure out its effectiveness. And if the library's trustees are certified, then the library gains a higher ranking in the standards. So it's basically just another motivational factor. So once you've decided that, yes, I want to be a certified trustee, you can choose between temporary certification or initial certification. The temporary certification basically gives you a little bit of time to complete the requirements for certification. So you come on board as a trustee, you get your temporary certification, and that shows that you're interested in the program and you're working towards your initial certification. You want to be, a certified trustee. The initial certification is when you've completed all the requirements that we'll talk about in a minute. It shows you're an informed trustee, you're educated about your basic responsibilities. So the basic procedure for certification, for getting started in the program, depends on your appointment date. So if you were appointed to your current time on the board prior to July 1, 2011, then you would only need to submit an application for temporary certification along with that $20 fee. And the 2011 date is because that's when the program started, so the requirements began after that. But if you came on board for your current appointment after July 1, 2011, which the vast majority of trustees that we're talking to now are, then you're going to follow this process that we're going to show you now. So pretty much everybody falls into this category. All right. If you'd like to get your temporary certification first, here's what you do. We talked about the two different kinds of certification, temporary and initial. If you want to go for temporary first, here's how that goes. On your certification application, which I'm going to just show you an example of real quickly, and we'll come back and forth to this. Up at the top here, this is what that looks like. You want to check that you're applying for temporary certification. You saw that little box. So you want to mark on the application that you have completed a director's orientation and an orientation with your regional librarian. And you can see this little underlined or you can check that you've watched the first two core skills webinars. Those webinars are called Library Trustee and Director Roles and How to Conduct a Board Meeting. So you have your choice between those two. Then you fill out the rest of the application with your personal information. Your director or board president will sign it and you will sign it, and then you'll mail it in with your $20 fee. So we're going to take a quick flashback over and those downloads that I mentioned at the beginning. This is one of those forms that you can download to keep. You'll have the current version there. So again, check at the top if you want temporary or initial, and here are those boxes and the instructions where you would say, I completed the director orientation and the regional orientation, or I watched the two orientation videos. So you want to check these two or this one. And then make sure, use the rest of them as a guide to make sure you're filling it out correctly. Down here is your personal information, your signature, and then the signature of either your library director or the president of your board. And if you have any questions about this, please feel free to chat them in the chat box. All right, going back. So we're still on temporary certification. Why do you get a choice between the director and regional orientation or watching the two webinars? What's the point of that? Well, basically, many years ago, we had 16 regional librarians that covered the entire state. They were divided up into very small little chunks of counties. So after many budget cuts, back during the 2008 recession, we got cut down to 8 regional librarians. So we halved that. And so now after more budget cuts, we're down to 4 regional librarians. So we have 4 people that cover all 120 counties in Kentucky. So it's extremely difficult for our regional librarians to get to every library to do a face-to-face regional orientation. So now we offer this core skill webinar option. And that's going to give you an introduction to your responsibilities, but it also alleviates the pressure on the regional to get to every library, which is nearly impossible for them. So that's why you have that choice. It just depends on your regional, their schedule, your schedule. So talk to your director, see what's going to be best, figure it out with them. It might just be best to watch the videos, or your regional might already be coming to the library for a meeting. So just talk to them and see what's going to be best. Okay, so that's your temporary certification. Now we're going to look at how to apply for your initial certification, which is valid for 4 years. So here's what you do. You watch the 5 core skills webinars. 2 of those are these up here that we talked about for the orientation. So you'll watch 5 webinars and fill out learning activity reports for each. So what are the 5 core skills webinars? We're going to cover those in just a minute. So Alicia is going to be covering those in just a second, a little more in depth. What does that learning activity report look like? Well, let's hop over and take a quick peek at it. That is, again, one of those handouts that I made available earlier in the webinar, or at the beginning of the webinar. So this is the learning activity report. You can see it says it up here at the top. You want to complete one of these after each continuing education activity that you complete. And you'll sign it saying, yes, this is me, and your personal information. And then you want to give us a little information about what the activity was. So you can tell us this is one of the core skills webinars, library trustee and director roles, whichever one it was that you watched, who the presenter was, and then contact hours is basically how long it lasted. And then just tell us a brief description of what you learned down here at the bottom. That's it, real simple form to complete. Let me hop back over to our process slide here. So once you fill out a learning activity report for each one of those webinars, then you go back to that application that we looked at. It's the same application. Mark at the top that you're applying for initial instead of temporary. And then in regards to your orientation, in those boxes, you want to mark whether you did that face-to-face orientation. We still want to know that. Or if you watch those 2 core skills webinars. And then mail all of that in with your $20 certification fee and the core skills learning activity reports, those LARs that we just looked at. Okay, if you have already obtained temporary certification previous to your initial and you're now applying for initial, you don't have to pay that $20 fee again. However, here's a little tidbit. You don't have to get temporary certification first. You can go straight to initial. That is up to you, in which case you would need to pay the $20 fee. So if you just do initial first, then we will need that fee. If you've already done temporary, then we won't. If you ever have a question about whether or not the fee needs to be paid, please just contact us and we'll be happy to tell you. Do we have any questions before we move on to Alicia, who's going to cover our core skills webinars and lots of other good stuff? Doesn't look like it. Okay, I'll turn it over to Alicia.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk to some about these core skill webinars that we've been talking about. Of course, you'll learn lots and lots of things and information as you serve your term as trustee. But these 5 core skills webinars are things that trustees really need to know right off the bat as soon as they're starting their term. It's extremely helpful to get yourself acclimated quickly as to what your role is going to be. And a lot of it is making sure you do things the right way and you stay on the good side of the law. There are lots of things that trustees need to know as far as legalities, how to conduct a board meeting, different things like that. So you really want to make sure you're doing things the right way. And this is what these 5 core skills videos are going to do. So just going to briefly just talk about each of them. And you can view these in any particular order that you would like. But these 5 kind of capture the 5 really areas that trustees really need to know what they're doing and how to do things. So the first one there's title is very direct, very simple. library trustee and director roles. And what this webinar does is it goes through and it lets you as a trustee know what your responsibilities are as a trustee, what your role is in working with other trustees and also working with the director. And it lets you as a trustee know what the director is responsible for doing. So it's a very good webinar on clearly defining those trustee and director roles. It also lets you know as a trustee, what your boundaries are, what you should and shouldn't be doing, and what you should be allowing your director to do as their job. And also is a good way, again, as Charlie mentioned, that you all as trustees for selecting and evaluating a director. This gives you information on what they should be doing. So lots of good information there. The second core skills video, which, like I said, 1 and 2, if you choose the non face to face regional orientation, these are the two videos that are required for that non face to face regional orientation. So the second one there is conducting a library board meeting. And this tells you everything you need to know about conducting a library board meeting, from what Charlie mentioned earlier about attending all board meetings. Really need to be doing that, because if there's a certain number that if you don't attend during the year, you're automatically resigned from the board, different things like that. But the conducting a library board meeting, it tells you a lot of information about how a board meeting should be done, and also tells you good things about how a meeting should not be done. And a lot of this it falls in line with the Open Meetings Act. So very lots of good legal information, and make sure that you as a trustee and your board are doing things legally and the right way. So again, lots of good information on that one. The third one, fiscal responsibility, as again that title suggests, it's all about money. It's all about doing the library budget, making sure, like you said, with tax rates that you're getting, the amount of money that your library needs, helping the director decide where you all are going to spend the taxpayers' money, and also any of the legal things that go along with submitting a budget to the Department for Local Government, things like that. Then the fourth one there, governance of Kentucky Public Libraries. What this particular webinar deals all with is about policies. It talks about policies that your library should have, and this is something that you all as trustees work with your director to develop these policies. It helps you identify those types of policies that your library definitely needs. It also helps you determine whether the policies that you are creating or that you do have are actually legal. So again, you see that common thread of making sure that your public library, you all as trustees, are doing the right thing, doing the legal thing, and making sure everything, all your policies are the way they're supposed to be. And so the fifth and final core skills video is talking about strategic planning and library advocacy. Strategic planning, your role as a trustee and working with the director to look at long range planning for the public library is extremely important. This talks about what strategic planning is, how often you should do it, what's the best way to do it. So very important for trustees to know, so that they're looking ahead to the future of their public library and making sure that they've got some plans in place for where the library is going to go in the future. And then, of course, library advocacy, making sure you're, like Charlie mentioned, you're one of your big responsibilities as a public library trustee is advocating for your library. So it talks about how to do that, from coming up here in February and going to Library Legislative Day. Make sure you got a yellow shirt to wear, to just doing things at your local level when you're out and about talking to people in the community, your community leaders, and really advocate for your library. That's one of your important roles as being a public library trustee. So just a brief overview of what those core skills are about. And like I said, these are the 5 core skills webinars that you do need to view as a trustee in order to get your initial certification. So once you have done that, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can renew your certification. Again, your initial certification, it's valid for 4 years. You can always renew your certification before that 4 years are up. Or if you are appointed for a second term, trustee term, and you would like to renew your certification, we're going to talk about how you would go about doing this. And the certification renewal for trustees is a lot more simple for the most part than the initial certification. Um, but what you would need to do is, in order to renew your certification as a trustee, you would need to complete hour, 8 additional contact hours of continuing education credit. Now, this is separate from those trustee core skills webinars that you did. It would be additional contact hours. And once you renew your trustee certification, it's valid again for 4 more years. And there's a variety of ways that you can earn these 8 additional contact hours. You can attend um, library conferences like the Kentucky Public Library Association conference that's held every spring, the Kentucky Library Association conference that's held in the fall. You can watch libraries related to, or webinars related to your role as a trustee in the library. I know in some cases, some library boards at their, maybe once or twice during the year at their monthly meetings will have, will devote an hour to continuing education, either have somebody come in and present. I know one particular public library had someone come in and present on Robert's Rules of Order, which is, of course, how you conduct your library board meetings. So, a variety of different ways that you can earn those 8 additional contact hours. And again, with that, what you do is you're going to submit a learning activity report. This slide just talks a little bit more about some of the things that will count as those additional 8 contact hours for renewal. And like you said, some of the regional consultants will have, different workshops, retreats, different things like that. But pretty much anything that is related to your role as a public library trustee um, will count towards those 8 hours. And this is when you've accrued your 8 hours and you're ready to renew your public library trustee certification. Of course, as with always, there is a form to fill out. And this one, again, you've got some instructions there. You just put name, home address, library address, sign it, and then either get the library director or president to sign it. There is a $20 certification fee, again, that we ask for that you submit. And a couple different ways you can do your 8 additional contact hours. Between your initial certification and when you're ready for renewal, you can send us a learning activity report that records any kind of training that you received. And we have a certification database and for trustees, and we put that information in there and keep track of your contact hours that way. So you can be doing your 8 hours, during those 4 years and sending in those learning activity reports to us as you complete training activities. Or what you can do is when you send in your renewal application, you can also send in all of those learning activity reports that document your 8 additional contact hours for renewal. So it just kind of depends on how you would like to do that. So I'm going to do a quick pop out onto the web real quick and kind of give you a brief tour of our website and where you can find some of the forms, more trustee information, and some of the webinar opportunities that you can partake in to receive some of those additional 8 contact hours. So it's been a while since I've done this, so let's see if I can do this correctly. And thank goodness Charlie's here to help me. So there we go. I'm going to share my desktop, and we're going to go over here. And I just use Chrome, but we're going to go hopefully out on the internet if our speed will. And I'm going to go to our website, which is kdla.ky.gov. So that's always where you want to start when you're looking up information. So this is what our website looks like. What you want to do is you want to come over here to librarians, and you want to come all the way down to the bottom. Last but not least is our list of web pages entirely for trustees. So I'm first going to go to the web page that talks more about the trustee certification program and just show you um, that information there. This is where you can find all of the forms, you know, those 5 core skills webinars are also located on there as well. Yay, I was about to say if we ever get there. So this page does have a pretty detailed instructions on how to apply for temporary certification, the forms and those orientation videos that you would need. And if you scroll on down, like you said, it's got information about how to apply for initial certification. There's those 5 core skills videos listed right there under initial certification. And then we have some additional information on the trustee certification renewal process as well. And I'm going to visit this here in a second, but have our CE calendar where you can find some of those once you're have your initial certification, how you can get those 8 additional contact hours. So trustee certification forms, all the forms you need are going to be found right there. And then some additional information is our program guidelines. There's a brochure if you'd like to print it off and give it to any of the other trustees on your board. And then we will, once we have this webinar done and recorded, we will update this trustee certification webinar link to the most current one. So that's that page. I'm going to go back and show you where to get to our calendar of continuing education events. So you want to go back up to librarians. This time you want to go to library staff development, and you want to come over here to continuing education. You want to click on there, and this page will come up. The very first thing you see right here is calendar of events. You want to click on there, and it will take you to all of our calendar of webinar events that are coming up. All of the ones that we get an error. Normally you would see a nice calendar here, and for the whole entire month of June, and each month it will have a listing of all of the free webinars that are offered, and this is what public library staff uses as well to go find free webinars that they can take. So like I said, there's a listing on each calendar block of all the webinars that are going to be offered that day. So you can just go on there. We have our webinars on there as well. Usually you want to check very close to the first day of the month, and that's usually when everything's going to be on there. So like I said, for right now, there's everything for June's on there. July won't be on there pretty much until pretty much July 1st or 2nd. Sometimes we get it the last day of the previous month, but not all the time. So let's try this one more time and see if Google wants to work. But I think Google must be experiencing, oh, there we go. Yay! I always try it twice and see what happens. So there's different views, week, month, and agenda, but it's not showing everything, so Google's still not working correctly because all this should be chock full of different links. Like this is May. This is what May looks like. I'm not sure why June's not pulling in there, but as you can see, you've got all different choices and selections. So just a place to check out for continuing education events. So we're going to go back in so we'll stop sharing that. And then we will move on to the end. If you have any questions, go ahead, chat those in. But that is the end of our main presentation for today. Um, I need to go back in and Charlie, you tell me what I need to grab. Rotating slides? Okay. I will get out of there. All right. While Charlie's bringing that up, just want to say thank you all very much for attending. As you can see in the lower left-hand corner, we have our downloads pod. So any of these that you would like to download, you just click on it, and it'll turn a lovely blue shade. Then you just click on download files, and you can download those directly to your computer. And I forgot, that's a picture of Charlie and I in our office. So if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We are here to help you out with your trustee certification, or if it's something else, we'll try to find you to the right person. So thank you for spending part of your lunch with us today. We really appreciate it. And I think that's about it for me. If Charlie has anything additional to say, I'll let her jump in there. If not, we're done for the day. Thank you all for attending very much. And like I said, please reach out to us if you have any questions whatsoever. So thank you all very much.